Okay, welcome back, Paul. So let's start our look back at last week's local football with a very busy week for Oxford United that ended with a 1-0 defeat away at Watford on Friday night, Paul. Thankfully, most of the championship results on Sunday, and Saturday rather, went in Oxford's favour, but it's still very tight in the lower half of the championship. Do you think Oxford United will still stay up, Paul?
My thoughts at the start of the season were it's going to be tough for them to keep out of the bottom three. And when they started off so well early in the season, I thought, okay, maybe that they'll be okay. But it's pretty ominous, isn't it? When they start to sort of move down the table. And whilst they're not very far from the top half, they're also really near to the bottom. It's like you say, it's really tight in there, and they need to get a couple of wins to get themselves away from that bottom, because I can see the teams below them picking up points. And it's going to be a tough season for United now. And if they can finish fourth and bottom, I'm sure they'll be happy with that.
All right, but talking of staying up, Paul Oxford said he bagged another point at home last Saturday. Do you think they're going to stay in the National League North?
It was a dreadful start, wasn't it, on Saturday to go down so early in the game. It's whatever Ross said to the team before the game started. It's like, well, they weren't banking on losing a goal so early, but to be fair to say, he worked really hard and didn't give up. And that's typical of Ross Jenkins' team, to keep going to the end. And they got the late equaliser, which was really good. And Scarborough's always a tough game, isn't it? Remember last season we had two really tough games against them. And I think they're a much bigger club than City, aren't they? So I think Ross settled for a draw. And I think we've seen improvement in the last few weeks, not leaking so many goals, getting points on the board. And I think they'll gradually move up towards the mid-table. They should be fine.
All right, now, Patrick, you were there reporting on the Oxford City game for the National Non-League paper. The headline, Macca's Cracker saves the Hoots. How good was Zach McEachran's equalising goal, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say before anything, I don't know, I'd never send in these headlines, and there's twice already the non-league paper called him Macca, and I've never heard anyone call him Macca before. But yeah, I mean, he deserves the plaudits, and I mean, he's all of a sudden starting to look back in the form that he did in the promotion season a couple of years ago. I mean, I don't think anyone could say that he quite hit the heights last year, did he, Zach McEachran? So yeah, it's an underrated goal, I think, really, because it was cut back to him and he wasn't kind of in the perfect position to take the shot, so he kind of bent his body round it and somehow got ridiculous power on it, really, to fire it into the top corner. So yeah, it was a good goal, but even better when it's in the 95th minute.
So the Oxford City game ended Oxford City 1, Scarborough 1, and it was the same scoreline for Banbury United, Patrick.
Yeah, they had a trip to Bishop Stortford, actually, which was a National League North relegation game from last year. They both played each other in that division. Banbury went down 1-0 quite early on, actually, inside the opening 10 minutes, but your Nandwi Yafutu scored on about the half hour, which saw the spoils shared there. We can hear from Simon Holyhead after the game. He wasn't particularly pleased with how his side started, but was pleased with how they reacted later in the game. So here he is speaking to Puritan Radio's Dave England at full time.
I thought second half we showed a real reaction up until they scored. I didn't feel put enough pressure on the ball. Some of our passes were quite sloppy, yeah, it wasn't anywhere near the standards that we've seen. I felt after we scored, for the rest of the first half, we assumed far more control in the game, and at half time the players themselves said that we can go another level here.
All right, so next up, Didcot Town and Paul. Last week, or the week before last, I should say, the Railwomen fought out a 3-3 draw all the way down at Tiverton, a long old long old trip, I should say, to battle for a hard-fought point. So you'd thought that with home advantage on Saturday, Jamie Heapy's team could get a win, but it just wasn't Didcot's day, was it, last Saturday?
Well, what a game. 5-3 they lost, and 8-goal thriller. If you're Didcot, not very happy being on the wrong end of that one, but it's tough, isn't it? There's a lot of travelling to do in that division. I think Tiverton's one of the shorter trips. is it Mousehole is the place they have to go to, which is even further down. They certainly have a lot of travelling to do. Yes, it's going to be a tough season for Big Cogs. It is a difficult division, but they're sort of lower mid-table at the moment. I think they'll be okay. Letting in five goals at home is never on the plan, is it?
No, and I think that because we haven't heard from Jamie Heapy, he's probably still sort of letting off steam. Part-time players, Paul, you know all about that with Oxford City and, of course, now with Whitney Town. Does that make it even more difficult for any manager at non-league level to get a consistent side together?
Well, separation is difficult, isn't it? And if you're training in midweek and you've got work to do before you come training, that's obviously going to affect people, especially if they have to travel. And it's you never really know what sort of condition your players are going to turn up in. I mean, a lot of these footballers are, what are they, bricklayers, hod carriers, plasterers. Some of them have quite physical jobs in the day, and then they've got to play football in the evening, and it is tough. And you don't get enough time really with the players to get them playing the way you want. And even with Oxford City last season, where we did go full time, we still had some of the players on a part-time contract because they've always been part-time players, and some players have more time than others. So it's always tough. And imagine travelling on a match day to somewhere like Tiverton Town or Mousehole when you've got a whole day of travelling to do, and you've got a day job as well.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, thanks a lot, Paul. Now, Patrick Lock, are you sitting comfortably, sir?
Always, Colin.
Well, in that case, then please take us through the rest of last weekend's results.
Yeah, and we the rest of the roundup start with Tame, and they've had a fine start to the season, and that continued. They made it 5 wins and 6 with a 2-1 win over Northwood at home. Got off to a quick start actually. Braden Daniel, who's on loan from Oxford City, scored in just the second minute actually with a close range finish. And then on about 20 minutes, Curtis Brown made the most of some slack defending, I think you'd have to say, to make it 2-0. Northwood did get one back in the second half, but Tame were able to hold on to victory. A victory actually that sees them now level on points with Welwyn Garden City, who are in the playoff position. So still a tough league there, trying to get into those playoff places, but taking a step into trying to close that gap. Elsewhere in the Southern League Division 1 Central, not much to report, unfortunately. Kidlington were beaten. They lost 3-2 away at Stotfold. 2 Charlie Bacon goals weren't enough there to see them take anything back from there. Well, Northley had a very tough day in the office. They lost 6-2 at home to Hadley to see them still bottom of the league. Milton United were Oxfordshire's last standing participants in the FA Vars this season. They were agonisingly eliminated on penalties, though, after a 1-1 draw away at Downton after normal time, but the home side progressed after winning 5-3 on penalties. We can hear from Christian Lawrence, the Milton manager. Here's what he said to their media team at full time.
The Pens was tough. I think the game probably warranted a draw. It just hurts. I think it hurts for the boys. I think, massively. I think the boys did their bits, but we missed Joycey. We massively missed having that 9, and Cam was brilliant, but he wasn't able to play his game. They score a lucky goal through the bounce, and we changed it at half time. We changed our shape, and that's from the boys as well. So as a team together, we made some sacrifices, and we changed the team around. And we looked at the better team second half, scored straight away. Probably didn't quite push on once we scored, and then it was just a battle. Both teams wanted it. It could have gone either way, and I do think a draw was probably the right thing, but yeah, it hurts.
Elsewhere in Step 5, and Wallingford and Crowmarsh, they were victorious in the combined counties. They beat Hollyport 2-0 away from home. Aidan Higgs scored in the first half, or Callum Young added a second just 10 minutes before the end to give them a win in that division. Elsewhere, Ardley were held to a 1-1 draw away at Broadfield United, again in the combined counties, while Easington Sports were beaten 3-1 at home to Histon in the United Counties League. And a weird one there, actually, that the Easington seems to be playing Histon again this coming weekend away from home. So seems to be playing Histon twice in 2 weeks in the league, which is a bit of a strange one, but I'm sure there's probably some reasoning behind that. So finally looking at Step 6, Wanchester Town came came from an early goal down to win 6-1 away at Newton Town. 4 goals came in the second half. Braces from Callum Crook and Luke Ballard did most of the damage. With Steve Robertson and Lewis Reeve got the other 2 goals there. So that's a big win for them in Atlantic Division 1. Otherwise, it wasn't a great day for the other teams in that division. Kidlington Reserves, they got a point with a 1-1 draw against Bewdley Town. But otherwise, Casterton, Clanfield and Abingdon United are all beaten in that division. So looking to Sunday's fixtures, Oxford United women were beaten 2-0 at home to table toppers # United in the Women's National League South. Abingdon United, however, were big 4-0 winners over Southampton women. I'm afraid, Colin, not a good day, not a good weekend for Southampton in general. So that was in the Women's National League Division 1 Southwest. Molly Dyer scored twice on her debut, actually. We can hear from what interim manager Sam Froud said after the game.
Massive for the progression we're making at the moment as a club and as a team. I think the girls have stuck together through a real tough period the last 6 to 8 weeks where results haven't quite gone our way. But then over the last 2-3 weeks we've started to see those glimpses in games where we should probably take away more than what we've potentially deserved. And today I just thought we were class from minute 1 to minute 93. I couldn't have asked for any more from the girls, to be fair. When you look at results and you see, win by a large margin, and you see that you exceeded 1 goal, it shows that you may be a little bit complacent during the game. But I think today we controlled it from minute 1 to minute 90, and the clean sheet is a result of that. And I think really impressed with the fact that even the players that came on to finish the game off for us stuck with the right beliefs and stuck with the way that they needed to go to then come away with a clean sheet, which is thoroughly deserved.
And just to wrap up, and it wasn't a good day for Oxford City's women either, actually. They were beaten 4-2 against Sholing in the Southern Region Women's Football League. That's what happened over the weekend, Colin, and back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick and Paul Lyon. Now back to the main studio for much more Oxford Sport Unleashed.